So what affects your tone most of all? Your guitar, your amp, your pedals, your cables, your pick, what is it? Let's talk about it. What's up, I'm Cam from Gibsunday, and I've got a fun one today. My good friend Dave came over, and you've never met Dave, but he's a close friend of mine. He's a local producer here in Nashville, bandmate, fellow guitar nerd, all things. You'll probably see him more on this channel. And I just love Dave. He's such a good dude. And so he comes over and we start talking about guitar tone, because this is one of those things that he and I talk about. And I had posited the idea that amp cabinets make the single largest impact on your tone. And I personally come from the camp that a $10,000 guitar into a $5 amp sounds like a $5 amp. I don't think you can get around that. In reverse, I think a $5 guitar into a $10,000 amp, it doesn't sound like a $10,000 amp, but it sounds like a $5,000 amp. And I have seen that. I live in that camp. I stay in that camp. I'm not changing camps. And because of that, I was like, yo, let's just test it. It's one thing to say, you know, hey, two guitars of the same brand and the same model feel different, but it's another thing to play them back to back and notice the difference. It's one thing to say guitar cabs make a massive impact on your tone, but then play them back to back and see just how significant an impact it makes on your tone. And so he came over and we sat down and we tried it out. Let me just say as a caveat quickly before we get into it, at that time when we filmed in this room, it was 27 degrees outside. Now this is not like a closed-in normal studio. This is a 2-car garage that I converted. I don't know if you know that. It's not like a closed-in, sealed-off, air-conditioned studio. It's not one of those. This is a jam space that I have turned into something really cool that I'm really proud of, but it's still just not foolproof. And so we use a gas heater over here to make sure we stay warm in the meantime, and then some space heaters around. And so the Les Paul studio that I was playing was fighting for its absolute life. My point is, you're gonna hear us fight with the guitar. It's not the guitar, it's the settings and the conditions and the context in which the video was filmed. That's it, all right? I have since set that guitar back up and it plays like butter. I love that guitar. It's not the Les Paul, so don't hate on that in the comments. You're wasting your time. So I hope you enjoy this video. Stick around. I've got a few more things at the end for you. I just picked up this new Friedman 212 extension. That meant that I now have this Boogie 210, a Friedman 212, and the Epiphone 412 as well. So I've got some options. Well, you brought your Harley Benton 212 over, which I'm excited to compare these two down here because the Celestions and these are Celestion V30s in both, but we've got Chinese V30s, and then we've got the British V30s in here. So we're gonna hear some differences, some small differences in cab size, some differences in cab components. This one is ported, just a small opening port in the back. This one is not. Chinese speakers, British speakers, there's gonna be some differences. And so when we start getting into these, we're gonna hear differences between these two, and then we're gonna hear differences between a closed back 212 versus an open back 210, right? So we're gonna change speaker size, and then we're gonna change how air travels through this from closed back, pushing everything out, to open back, and you're gonna have some back bleed. And then we're gonna get into the 412, this Epiphone big red over here, this big behemoth. And then throughout the process, we're gonna maintain the same amp head, which is the wonderful Mesa Mark 7. I mean, everything about it's perfect, you can't go wrong. And then we're gonna play through a Les Paul studio session, killer guitar. And then lastly, to record, we're gonna be going into the Universal Audio SD3 for all of these. And for our room mic, we're gonna use a Loughton Audio LA220 to help us capture the space. So let's get into it. So, all right, so we're starting with the Harley Benton 212, closed back, Celestion V30s from China. So let's just get some sounds. Dude, this is dark. This is legit. This is dark. I'm in the bridge position. Nothing crazy. That's better. That feels like, that makes sense. I like how the gain breaks up on these. Now when I'm doing single notes and a little bit softer, I'm not so crazy about it. That's dark. Let's have a look. That's dark. That's dark. That's dark. I know I'm saying it, but like, I'm surprised at how dark it is. Fat mode. No EQ. That's the 5-band. And then we're in the 45 watt setting. As you can see here, presence, master, gain, treb up, mid, less than half, and then bass pretty low.
So it should be a fairly bright tone.
This should be bright. This should be much brighter. And again, I'm in the bridge position. Like this feels almost like neck. That's tubby. I'm playing an A. I'm not in drop D. That's so dark. I've got a light speed on. No light speed, no reverb, no nothing else. We're using a little bit of compression. You hear that that's dark. Now I'm in the neck position, but let's take it from a Harley Benton 212 Celestion V30s to a Friedman 212 Celestion V30s. Chinese, British.
Same settings on the head.
Same settings. Not going to change a thing. Just going to move the cab. All right, so it's 8 ohms and also 8 ohms. So I'm not even changing anything on the back of the head either. So it's not like there's not a massive shift here. This is relatively similar in comparison to the other. So
we're going apples to apples. It's kind of like going like Honeycrisp to Gala. Both apples, just different.
Are they both red?
I think they're like red and yellow. Like those ones are kind of half and half.
Yeah, okay, so but like a red yellow even, right? Like not even just a full yellow?
No, I mean like there's like a reddish and yellow.
This feels like a less yellow.
Would you like a different fruit? Is that what the issue is?
No, because I'm saying I think they're both red apples.
Okay.
But I think it's like you just got I don't fucking know apples. I don't know why we're using this as an example. So here's my point. Back to guitar cabs, because that's what we know on this channel.
Okay.
They're very similar. I mean, you can see right here, like look at this, there's a height difference. And the point there is not any other thing than the cabs have a different shape and size. And theoretically, in the recording, that should impact the sound. There's no port. There's a port.
Well, as far as physics are concerned, there's going to be a different sound. Even if we took the same speaker from one cab to the next, because of the fact that they're a different dimension cabinet,
right? They're
going to inherently sound differently.
So, okay. So we're getting into the point of this whole thing. And the point of this whole thing is that any change you make with your cabinet is going to impact it. It's going to impact it. So does this make the biggest impact the most straight out the gate? So now we're going to switch these two around. Same head, new setup, same setup, but we should hear a difference. And I think the most obvious besides the size of the cab is that these are going to be the Chinese speakers versus the British speakers. I'm brighter already and I'm in the neck.
It sounds brighter just in the neck position.
Come on, come on. That's night and day.
Yeah.
I would like to blend these two. We're gonna get a speaker cable in a second. We're gonna blend them. It's brighter in the neck already than that was. This is so funny. Dude, how much brighter is that?
Oh, I mean, like so noticeable.
So Hey, I just
Like
bought.
I'm shocked actually how different that is.
Hey, I just bought a new head, and it's just too dark, man. What should I do?
What cab are you playing through?
What cab are you playing through? Cool, you got that one. Come over. I got something for you to try. So think about a band mix. Maybe if you're going for heavy, you want like it to be low and full and can carry a chug. But maybe in a different band mix, you want it to be able to cut through anything. If I'm trying to cut through, I'm not playing the Harley Benton. I'm playing through this. Playing through the Friedman. If I'm trying to cut through a mix. Like,
So maybe if you're like more of a lead guitar player, that's what you're going to lean towards, as opposed to if you're
if
a
I'm
rhythm.
a lead guitar player, which I'm not, I'm playing the Friedman.
Yeah.
And even as a rhythm player, I'd probably still play the Friedman because I want to be heard. and I think it's just more appealing to the ear. I like the warm jazz of the Harley Benton, but I don't think that's what it's going for necessarily. Maybe if I'm in like a heavier rock band where I'm going for like a thicker, sludgier doom, just even if I'm going for like Dirty Black Keys kind of blues rock, right? Like if I'm just going for that particular sound, yeah.
You don't need those pristine high end.
Right. So this is the 2x10 cab that I play with this Mark 7 head. This is just the particular setup I'm running with right now. These have Celestion G10s in them. This is a very small, this looks like a 112 cab.
That's what I thought it was.
Right? It's probably the same size as a 112. That's a 112. That Supro back there. And these are very similar in size. And Mesa crammed 210s in here, which is cool. So there's a few differences from what we just did. 212, 212, 210, close back, open back. So this is going to sound different all the way around. Yo, that's clearer. It's fuller. That's crazy. That feels, okay. First 3 strums, that feels as big as a 210, but it feels like there's a lot more bloom, but maybe it's the back that I'm hearing. But it feels like there's a punch and a focus to these close backs where it just kind of hits. Does that make sense? Like this is the direction the cannon blows. Where this feels like by the time that I'm feeling it, like it's a full developed sound. That's crazy. That's a big amp. Hear all that? Not just the verb. Okay, so I don't know if you can hear it.
It's hard to hear in this. I can hear it in the room.
That's what I'm saying.
There's more. It's so strange to say. There's more noise in the room. Like I can hear the sound coming.
So you're
bigger.
getting more of the fallout. It's bigger.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. It's more developed. There's more bloom.
Yeah,
Like
it's not that it's louder. It just feels bigger.
It does.
In a way.
It feels bigger.
Yeah.
100% feels bigger. This is cool. This feels like I'm playing in a bathroom.
And we're not in a bathroom, right?
No, nothing changed. So this should not be louder. It does. I don't think it's louder. I think it feels louder. Oh, it's bigger.
It's almost. Well, I was looking to see if it was actually
Okay.
if it's a perceived
Let's
volume.
See. Yeah. Okay, that's a good idea. Same.
Yeah.
It's the same. So the playhead we're looking at now, we're tracking, and it's the same amount of signal.
Getting pretty close.
Yeah. I swear this is in tune, guys. I swear.
Yeah. The heater just kicked on again too.
The heater just kicked on.
Yep.
Okay, so my perception is it's got more attack. It's got a bigger, louder sound, and there's more breakup. But I think it's the open back that's creating that perception. Because I think that these were so much more focused that those felt really driven and broken up.
It's a lot tighter of a sound coming through those.
It's a lot tighter. Okay, I like that there's some amps behind it. I like that there's something behind it. So if this were up on the bench, it would be hitting moving blanket muffling, and it would, behind that there's styrofoam dampening as well. It wouldn't be blossoming quite the way it is, but this way there's some space, and these amps aren't going to absorb everything. So I think it's actually we're getting fallout, right? We're getting the way that the amp is kind of moving around the room. And this doesn't feel as quiet and as focused on the sides the way the others have. Like I feel like I notice the drop when I'm standing in front of it versus when I'm moving around it, but it doesn't feel like a dramatic drop.
As where it does when you're with those 212s.
With the closed back 212s, those are focused. Again, like this is the direction the cannon points. Right here, I feel like I'm listening to the back of the amp, right here. Okay, so you play this only, right? Primarily?
Yes.
So you're only playing a closed 212. What is this experience like for you right now, playing an open 210?
I was walking around. I'm sure you noticed that in the video. It doesn't feel like I'm walking away from the amp, like that directional thing that you're talking about. It does get louder right in the middle when you're directly in front of it. But as you kind of shift around a little bit, it doesn't feel like you're walking away or creating any distance from yourself in the cab.
We've seen within 3 cabinets already how much a difference it makes. So let's go ahead and do the thing, and let's go to the 4th, even though we've already kind of made up our minds.
Yep.
And let's hear what we get. It's darker. I don't think it's brighter. I think it's darker.
Hold on. Is it darker than what you're used to playing through with the Origin?
No, than what we've been doing tonight.
So which you think that the Epiphone is the darkest cab that we played?
I think your Harley Benton is the darkest. The Epi is the second darkest. I think that the Boogie is next, with the Friedman as the brightest, but the bloom on the Boogie makes me want to say that the Boogie is the brightest. But I don't think that's the case. I think just it's the bloom playing with me a little bit. This is the most neutral we've played so far.
Okay.
This is the most middle of the road. I think I would stand on that. Like, this is almost a forgettable sound. Like the most vanilla, but most like, I just need a sound. I just need.
You just need to push some air.
I just need sound. I need push air. Like, this is not offensive. It doesn't have a particular direction. I don't feel like it's taking me one way or the other. It's not bright. It's not dark. It's not. I said earlier, it felt kind of mid punchy. It's not mid punchy. It's just not bright. So yours is dark. The Boogie and the Friedman have distinct sounds. I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like the Epi is the most forgettable thing I've heard in a minute, which makes sense why I didn't like it with my Origin 50.
It sounds like your second cab when you're just trying to be louder on stage.
There's nothing to that, you know? Yeah, it sounds like a second cab. It's my extension, right? Like it's not my definition. I need volume. This is a good reference monitor cab.
If you've got a bunch of guitar cabinets and you're shooting out and you want to set up an amp, you start on the Epiphone and then move through the rest of your cabs to truly judge, because you're gonna set up the amp on the first cabinet that you plug into. Just like in this case, we set
one
up
sound and we knew first sound.
Yep.
Yeah, and so here's the irony too with that. To make your point, we've been judging off the warmth of the first amp. That set the tone, literally
set the tone.
Literally set the tone. And so now we're comparing against that. Not as hard as we were, but like this kind of moved on. That's a really good middle of the road. Okay, you've played it. I've played it enough. I know this sound. Let's talk about takeaways. The Harley Benton definitely has a place and a thing. It's not for me. Cool, dark, heavy, low, not my thing. I think if we were to go to channel 3 and really open up the Mark 7 and the heavy side, I could see that pairing. Friedman, 212. I felt like there not just a brilliance in the difference in sound, but I felt like I was hearing a price difference. I don't know how you felt about that. Again, you're familiar with that one, but I was feeling like, okay, this is the upgraded speaker.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. As much as I might enjoy the Harley Benton, I like it because of the price tag.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Like, and I'm agreeing 100% with what you're saying. Perfect world, a Friedman. Yeah, I would absolutely go for a Friedman.
Yeah.
And I think that's something, especially now doing this comparison, where knowing that there's that much more top end, or what we're hearing in the room, it sounds like there's a lot more high end in that cab.
Right.
I would rather have too much and be able to tame it with EQ as opposed to not even have it. And that's what I feel like now the Harley Benton is. It's not. It doesn't have that high end.
So this may have been bad for you.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not happy right now.
All right.
Well, I think another fun thing that we got to do tonight is we got to check out these UA Audio
SD3s. Yeah, right. The SD3 is cool. Yeah, I'm excited about that. Friedman 212, brighter, more attack. I think they were equally focused and punchy. That was something that was definitely there. I didn't feel anything different in that. I did feel more breakup in the Friedman, though. I feel like there was like more expression in the speaker.
Well, and that might be the difference, not just the cab build, but going from the UK built Celestians to the Chinese build.
That's what I think the difference is. Now, I can't speak to the components necessarily of the cabinets and say, well, this birchwood versus this maple. I don't know what their components are, so I can't. But I think that the thing I can focus on is you're looking at a fully Chinese made, right, versus what I believe to be an American made cab with British speakers. So a very different set of components, a very different build, everything. So then let's move on. I think to me, the big surprise here in this comparison was the Boogie 210. I did not see that coming. However, if we're looking at it, like just look at your tonal palette here. Closed, close, close, open. Well, of course it is. 12s, 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 10s. So if you're looking to make a big change, maybe having similar cabs is not the way to go. It makes a difference, but in comparison to each other, dark, medium, bright.
Yeah.
Right, but of a similar palette. Right? Not that massive difference in terms of like what the sound is. And then you get over here to this little thing. Tight, very responsive speakers. Very, 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 very responsive and full. And then just having the back to fall out. Man, that sold me. I didn't think that was something I wanted. But I've also been playing it over here.
Again, up against
deadening. Squidward and a deadening. And so like it hits and it stops. Now there's some opening, so it's not a full stop, but more stop than having it out in the open. Now I want to try and bring it out. Like, should I move it somewhere and have it,
What was the next video? We put it up against the wall in the middle of the room.
Yeah. So now the next video, all right. The next video is where you record what you're recording, which we know that in a studio setting, like you're going to put the cab in the center of the room, right? You're not going to put it up against the back if you're not recording directly in.
Sure.
Like you're gonna work on the placement to affect the sound. So let's play through that in the next video. If you want that video, you got to comment below cab placement. Like we'll move it around in different spots and try it with a front mic, a back mic, and a room mic.
And I mean, you touched on it earlier, sitting on the floor, up in the air.
Having set up on the bench off the floor makes a difference than what it's sitting down on the floor and the vibration.
If you got a 7-string guitar going through a 4x12, like a Mesa 4x12 oversized cab, again, because of the physics of the cabinet, there's going to be so much inherent low end. Getting it up off the ground just a little bit, even more than just what a caster can do.
Yeah.
Also remove the casters because that's going to vibrate.
Yeah.
Get it up off the ground, and you're going to reduce that boomy bassiness, or at least help out.
I think we can. Let's talk about the takeaway. We talked about the 412. We talked about all of them. It is pretty interesting hearing the differences. I'm really glad that we did it this way because it's so different when you hear them side by side. Again, 3 of these I keep in the room together, and I wasn't expecting that big of a tonal variation. And I think this is that thing where people like to argue about, like, well, it's not that big a difference, but then you play it side by side. You play 2 guitars but side by side. If I play a Les Paul and I'm watching someone else play a different Les Paul, and they're like, they're totally different. I'm like, well, right? It's easy to be biased about that. But then you put the second Les Paul next to you and you switch, and like, well, these are different. These are different guitars.
Oh, sure.
These are different. That's what we just did, right? Is we were able to side by side compare in a way that I wouldn't have been able to necessarily communicate. I was not able to tell you that this Epi 412 was a middle of the road vanilla ass amp. I was never gonna say that.
Well, it's red, so you assume that it's gonna, pop a little bit more
it's
than it
red.
did, right?
It's got a deco boom kind of, like vibe to it, right? It's like the mid-century modern thing with that thick ass wicker grill that you can't see through.
It was a guess. I think it was in front of the speaker.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it turns out. We'll see. So just a totally different, but I would have never known that. The Friedman was pretty close because again, I'm so new to this amp still, so I'm not familiar to the sound enough to definitively get lost in it and be biased to it and not remember it. So hearing it, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's about what I thought. I would now definitively, absolutely continue to make the argument, oh, for sure, I know for a fact that changing your cabinet is going to be the single greatest impact that you can make on the fly to affect your sound. I would absolutely say that.
Well, and I mean, again, I'm going to make the Apple reference, even though it didn't land earlier. We've got V30s up against V30s, and they sound different.
They do. And different, like significantly different.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to be that different. If you and I had played these 2 together with your amp and my amp, and we're going, well, we both have 212 V30s, we wouldn't have been able to have said how different they are, honestly.
I feel like I could pick, blindly, I could pick out which cab was which if I'm just listening to it.
I could now.
Now having done that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I could easily do that now.
I couldn't have before.
No.
I can now. Yeah, but I think if we had played them next to each other with our own amps, I just couldn't have told you why ours was different. We know they're different, but they're just different.
Yeah.
And now we know how they're different.
They're different.
Yeah.
They're all, we've got 4 cabs and 4 different sounds from the same amp.
Yeah. So I think this is where, there are some really good arguments to be made about this and cabinet changes and even cab IRs, cab modeling. Right? Like now you can say, well, look how much this changes. So if I change my cab in a cab modeler, it's going to make a massive difference.
Oh, absolutely.
So now I would even want to take it further and go, as I'm recording, I need to bear in mind what cabinet I'm using, how much that's going to impact the sound. Because I know I can change my snare and it'll change my entire kit. If you want the biggest impact on what you're playing, I don't think necessarily guitar. I'm such an advocate and proponent for feel. The guitar needs to feel good. You need to love how it feels. If you have a guitar that you want to continue to play, don't change it because it doesn't sound good. Try changing your cab if you can and see if that's what's going to be the biggest difference in sound.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Sure. I mean, I've got absolutely nothing to add to that. I feel like I'm still taking in the information from tonight.
Yeah, it's great. Sweet. This was fun, dude.
Cool.
Well, there you have it. Cabs just might be the single largest impact on changing your tone. I know there's a lot of other things. I know that changing your guitar can make a big difference, but let's say you have a guitar you love and you don't want to change. Don't change it, change your cab. If you don't have one, ask a buddy to bring one over. If you don't have a buddy, download some IRs. I don't know, like just try cabs first. And I don't mean amps, I mean cabinets. If you can change out the cabinet and the speaker, that's gonna make a massive difference. If you're looking to significantly overhaul, maybe you're unhappy with what you're getting out of your amp now, but you like the amp and you know it's close, but it's just not quite it, try changing the cab. If you're trying to affect a recording so that you get different sounds and so that there's no phasing issues, or so that there's no overlap, or so there's no lack of difference, so that you need more texture and nuance, try a different cab. It's so great. I really was not prepared to experience such a quantifiable, tangible difference. I didn't expect it. Since recording that video, I found myself changing my approach when it comes to what I'm recording and what I'm working on, because I want to be mindful of how that can impact my sound, and it really has, in a really cool, significant way. So have a look at changing your cab out. You're not gonna be disappointed. If nothing else, just like you saw, it's a really fun experiment. Most of the gear used in this video is for sale, whether it's the Marshall Origin 50, the Friedman 212, the Les Paul Studio Session, the U-Audio SD3, whatever it is, I have tried to make those available to you through affiliate links down below in the description box. Please click on those. If you click on that link and you buy it, I'm gonna get a small cut of that, so that means you get what you want and I get a little bit of financial support, which makes this channel go even further. So please click those below. If there's something you want to know more about, like what this microphone is or what this interface is, or just in general, comment below. I'm happy to either provide links for you or just chat about some of the different things that I'm using. Maybe it's pedals on the pedal board that you saw, whatever it is, you know, comment below, we'll chat about it. And then last but not least, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate that of all the things you could be spending your time on, you're spending it here with me, nerding out over guitar videos and guitar gear in general. That really means a lot to me. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It helps a ton. I know that you hear this all the time, but just click the button. It doesn't cost anything. As always, and until next time, stay tuned.